Hi, and welcome. We're the Weasley sisters. This is episode
82.
82. Um, I'm Naturally Nitty, aka Jessica.
And I'm Allena, aka Starnets. Today is September 10th. We have a special episode for you today. It's our all about Rolags and other spinning things that we might talk about episode. So
Just
this
kidding.
is our weekly podcast. If this is your first time watching,
Oh, sorry.
thanks for watching. If you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. So pull up a chair and watch how we do Rolags, or how Jessica does them, and I ask her questions about them.
Rolags. Yeah, so we've had a lot of questions, or not a lot, but some people asking, how I do my Rolags and how they look so nice and neat and stuff. So these are my alpaca Rolags, right? I don't know if you can see that all that well.
Yes.
I did a video earlier. I had Joe help me record it with a nicer quality camera. So we are going to switch to that. Hi, this is Jessica here. I'm going to show you how to make some Rolags, which that's what these are. Some alpaca Rolags. I made them using my drum carder, which is motorized, so that helps. Alright, so here we go. Okay, so first I fluff up the fiber. You want it to be thin, and you let it feed in, and you take out any VM that is in it. It's kind of a slow process. Later when I make the Rolags, I will be using 2 dowels. And I have my trusty ice pick, which I'd like a longer one, but that's okay. I'm mixing brown in with it, black in with the brown rather, to give the yarn some depth. So I have it thin, so you kind of see through it, so that it pulls it onto the carder nicely. Alright, but I'm going to fill that up, and then I will get back to you when the carder is full. Okay, so the last little bit is going in on the drum carder. Here are a few things you want to look out for. Some second cuts, and you don't want that in your Rolags because you'll get pilling on your knit garment. Alright, so I'm going to stop it when it's at the top, and you can see I keep it pretty thin. It's easier to work with that way. Okay. So, put it like that for now. That out of the way. So I turn the carder so it's facing me. I pick up the brush if you have one. You just work your fiber off of it. Make sure you got it all. You take your 2 dowels, put one on each side, and the first one's kind of fly away, but I pinch them together and I turn it, and then, can you see that? Or do you want to get a top view? And then I use my fingers and draft it a little bit, and then I turn it and draft, turn it and draft. So then I tied it up by rolling it on the wood there. You could also use, you know, a flat surface or something. Then you grab it and you pull one out, and then the other. And put it on your pile. So then you lift this up a little bit and do it again. So this time you get it so there's about an inch or so of fluff hanging out. You turn it over on itself so that you can't see the ends. You might need to take it off a little bit so you can draft it and rotate. Draft, rotate, draft, rotate. And you pull them out. Fluff it up a little bit. And if you get like some sticking, you can pick it up so you get it all. Or sometimes I use my little flicker thing and get it up that way. I usually get about 6 to 8 Rolags off of each drum. And I probably only card about an ounce at a time. Oops. And if you see anything you don't really like that fiber is it's not as nice as some of it, I've noticed. So I'm just going to pick that out and throw it away. So you draft, return, draft, turn. And the alpaca is really slippery as compared to some other wool. So it's pretty easy to draft this stuff. But I find keeping the original quantity lower, like an ounce or so, is a lot easier to make Rolags from. And then this last little bit always makes like, oh. Sorry about that. Makes a little like baby rolag, but it's okay. Do the same thing. Watch when I can even get up some of that. Oops, let me redo that. Me. Just kind of pick it up and you can scrape it along. And kind of tidy it up. And that's that.
Okay. So, what is an advantage of spinning from a rolag?
if you spin from a bat, which I probably have some. Anyways, it can get, like, you split the bats into strips so you can spin from that, and it gets pretty messy, and it can get all over your pants and shirt and all that stuff. Spinning from a rolag, you just start, and it goes. It also, that's how you can do long draw. Now, I'm not putting any twist into that, but it makes it a lot easier, and that's how I've been doing my newt yarn, which I have some finished. Bam. I think it's about 700 yards or so done right here.
Can you hold it up close so we can see it up close?
My light is all funky. I don't know. Can you see that?
Yeah. Ooh, that looks nice and fluffy.
Yeah. I'll open one up. No, the smaller one up. So I was aiming for DK weight. I just washed it and dried it today out in the sun. I think it's pretty much that. It might be a little thicker and thin, but that's what you get when you're doing hand spun. It's not perfect, but I think it's going to be great, and I'm excited. I have this much left to do. To spin. Yeah.
Well, I think that's good for alpaca, because when I've spun alpaca, I know that it gets really dense.
It is. So,
and thick.
I mean, and it feels dense, and like, I didn't get that. I'm always kind of worried about my yardage. Because this right here, I still had like a half a bobbin that I didn't ply, but this was 2 full bobbins that I plied. And I had this thing completely full, and I filled 2.5 bobbins while I was away on my retreat this past weekend. And like, all I got was 700 yards, but I do have a half an extra bobbin. So like, I'm hoping I have enough.
How much yardage did you say you needed?
Well, according to the pattern, I'm doing palm to pin. Is that how you say that?
Correct me if I'm going to say it.
Palm to pin. By Amy Christophers. I was going to do the one that needs 1,400 yards. But if my gauge, because I will do a gauge swatch, if my gauge is big, like my yarn is big, I'm going to do the next size down with the bigger gauge.
Right.
You know, to get the bigger size, but whatever. So, I don't know. We'll see. I'm crossing my fingers. If I like really run short, I have a ton of black alpaca fiber that I washed up for this newt and used some of it in with this brown. And maybe I can do like the ribbing in black, which I kind of don't want to, but if, you know, worst comes to worst. Or I was thinking take one bobbin, a full bobbin, and ply it with a black for the ribbing around the edge.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm short on yardage. So that's that. Okay. So next up,
you would make a rolag.
Well, you saw how to do that, how I did those alpaca Rolags, but a lot of people like the fun and pretty ones, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can use roving, which I think this is maybe tarji or something. I think this is something else. I don't know. It's just little bits that I had around.
It's wool.
It is wool. I believe this is Cormo. I have some of that black alpaca that I just fluffed up on my picker. I also have some other tarji that was fleece that I ran through the picker. It's a little more bumpy, so it's going to add some texture to the Rolags. But I also have some silk.
Ooh, that's pretty.
Here's some silk that I dyed. This is black. I have some Firestar. There's some black. I don't know if you can see the glitziness of it. And some more Firestar. I kind of like to add little pops of color here and there, and you can just pick whatever you want and see how it turns out. And I think this is bamboo, which I just grabbed. So I have a motorized drum carder, so I turn it on. And you start out with the pretty stuff, like the silk and the Firestar, because that's what's going to be on the outside of the rolag.
Okay.
Alright, and that stuff you can just add to the drum. Like, I don't put it in through the feeder.
Because it would take too much, right?
Well, and it sometimes just gets caught on the liquor in.
Yeah.
So this way you can be more
strategic about your placement.
Yeah, and put it where you want it. And just distribute it all over. So I'll take some Firestar. You gotta be careful that you don't poke yourselves, because these things can be sharp.
No, you're just doing a whole layer of Firestar?
Well, I did some bamboo. I'm doing some Firestar. Not necessarily a whole layer, but a good amount, because that is where you see it. I mean, you do want to put it throughout the rest of the, bat you're making or rolag you're making. But this is where you're going to see it. And if you want it to be pretty when you're done,
okay,
that's what you do. So now I'm going to take some silk and add that on. It's a little more grabby than the Firestar. And I'll do some of the other silk too. Pretty stuff.
Now, do you have a color scheme you're working with here?
Not really. It's kind of like, almost like Halloween-y. Like, it's got black and orange and some blues and stuff, so I was just kind of going with it. And there's some reds and stuff, but I thought it'd be, I don't know. It's not Halloween yet, but it's almost there, right?
Yeah. I got some Halloween fabric this past week to sew some Halloween bags. So,
what does it look like?
Store, so I'm down with the Halloween. They have some really cute stuff.
What kind of stuff did you get?
I got all kinds. I got, like, cupcakes that were, like, Frankenstein and a mummy.
Very cool.
I got some witch fabric, which is really cool. Like, old school witch, not, like, cartoony witch. Kind of like Sabrina, like the old school Sabrina.
Okay.
Or, like, the beginning of Bewitched.
Okay.
You know how she's, like, flying around on a broom, kind of like that.
That's cool.
And then I found this really cool, like, just like a drawing one, and then I found these, like, Frankenstein ones. I just, like, kind of looked. They have so many cute ones. I just picked a couple that I liked. And by a couple, I mean, like, 8. And that was reining myself in, because they had a lot of cute stuff. But I, like, washed it, and now I just have to sew it.
That's awesome.
So I'm down with the Halloween stuff right now.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. They have some fun stuff. Like, I don't get into all the super, like, gross stuff. But, like,
Yeah.
It's funny. Like, I saw at the Dollar Tree, this is so random, they had these ice cube trays for Halloween. And they had some that were pumpkins, and they had some that were skulls. And then they had some that were fingers. And I was like, that's kind of creepy.
Ew.
You'd make an ice cube out of a finger?
I guess.
I don't know. And it would look really cool. Gross. But I guess if you made it, like, out of, like, orange juice or something, so it actually looked finger, or, like, coffee ice cube on the finger, so it would actually look like a finger, that would be totally gross.
That would be quite gross.
So, Okay, so what are you doing now?
Now I'm just adding like the wool content. I did a bunch of tarji, some alpaca, and you want to add that on really thin. So I'm like opening it up as best as I can. This is just the, the prepared roving, not a fleece, so I'm opening it up.
Okay. So how many ounces do you suppose you use totally for this?
I try and only do 1 ounce or so for Rolags. Like when I'm doing a bat, I cram as much as I can on there.
Okay.
But for the Rolags, I found it's a lot easier to make the Rolags and to get them off when it's less. So
Okay.
if you want, like, because I've been thinking of making these more to sell them, but I just never have gotten around to it. But if you want to do like a certain amount, like say 4 ounces, I'd get your scale out, get all the different things you want to put in there, equal it up to 4 ounces, and then I separate it into 4 piles of like,
Okay.
I take all this fiber and I separate it into 4, and then I take this. I haven't done it now, so that's
That makes sense. So then most of them are similar.
So then you have a whole, 4 sets of the same thing. Is what my plan is, anyways. That's what I found, and I haven't made them too insanely much, like the fun ones. But.
So if you don't have an electric drum carder,
You sit there and you're cranking it.
okay. Well, I'm asking. I know this, but for our watchers,
Right?
don't.
No, that's good.
That's cool. That means I could do it on my drum carder.
Good. Yeah, and people always ask like why, or say mine looks so pretty or whatever, but really it's because I'm not doing any of the work. I think is what it is. Now these might be like the most ugly things ever, but we'll see.
What kind of drum carder do you have?
I have a fancy kitty. I think it's a kitten. It's called. It's smaller. It's or not small, but it's. They make a big tom, which is like huge, like a big.
Really
drum.
wide, yeah.
I think this one's supposed to be able to fit about 3 to 4 ounces on it.
Okay.
But that's when you're really packing it down, and it takes a long time to do it.
So you're just letting that smooth out?
I was letting it feed in. And I have a burnishing brush on here that's kind of nice. But if you don't have one of those, you can use like a dog brush or something. Or I also have one of these tools. So I'm going to just smooth it down a little bit. Okay. So I stop it when you're, I don't know what that's called. When the break in your carder.
The thing for taking the bat off the thing.
There you go.
That's what
I don't know
it.
what the technical term is. Alright, I wonder if I can move this a little bit so you guys can see a little better. Alright, I hope that works.
Yeah, you can see it.
Alright, so you break it. And I may have put a little too much fiber on here.
Okay.
But, whatever. Maybe I'll call these Frankenstein because they're kind of
Sounds good to me.
quite colorful. Alright, so you take your dowels, and I showed you this in the video before.
And that's just any kind of dowel?
Yeah. Just longer than your drum carder.
It looks pretty thick, like about the size of your thumb.
No, it's probably like the size of my pinky.
Oh, okay. Now that you hold it up there, I see it better.
You put one on the inside and one on the outside.
Okay.
Like so. You bring it up until you have like 1 inch or so of fiber. This first time is a little trickier because it's all kind of messed up from taking it off.
Okay.
You rotate it, and then, actually I saw in another video, you buy one of these rubber door stops.
Yeah.
Okay? And place it in, oh, I don't know if you can see. Let me move this out here for a second. Place place it in between the drum. Oops, down a little bit. And the wood there. And that kind of helps steady it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So you can yank on it. But I put my fingers down and use that as resistance. So
you're not just rolling it, you're pulling back as you roll it.
You're drafting it out.
Okay.
So you draft and turn. Draft and turn. Draft and turn. Draft and turn. Until you get this. And then you have some flyaways, so you just roll it on here, and it makes it all
pretty.
Smooth and pretty. Then you take one dowel out and the other dowel out.
Oh, that's pretty.
Boom. Okay, so I'll set that there. So then you do it again. You fluff it up a little bit. So you can get about an inch sticking out from your dowels. And this time you're not pulling, you're just turning it kind of to lock up, you know, the ends in.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to get it off the drum a little bit so you can draft it. And that's the tricky part. If your wheels or your carter's moving. So you draft, and sometimes I have to go like that. It was a lot easier with the alpaca because it's a lot more slippery than plain old wool.
Okay.
Or you do less and it's easier to draft. But you draft, roll, draft, and then spin.
And how do you know how big to make it or how many times to?
You just kind of, I don't know. I've kind of just learned.
Okay.
You can make bigger ones. It's not a bad thing, I don't think. I don't think you want to make them too insanely tight. These ones are a lot thicker than... See, that second one was thicker than the first one I did.
Yeah.
But a lot more dense than my alpaca ones, just because alpaca is super thin and fine.
Well, and this you have other stuff in. And, I mean, I guess you could probably make it as thick as you want.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I really like how the colors turned out on that.
Yeah. Draft and pull. Turn. Put this stopper on the other side. It works better for me. Dowel out. Dowel out. Yeah, it's fun. It's like black and blue and orangey.
Really. So then when you spin that, you would either do a long draw or just spin it?
You don't have to, like, but long draw or like a modified long draw, you know, where you're pulling back with this, with the hand that
Oh, okay.
With this hand, you know, because you're going like that.
Cool.
But yeah, so you continue around, and if anything sticks down, you can use your little ice pick to get it up before you do the dowels.
So about how many little thingies will you get out of that? Rolags.
I get about 6 to 8. Or that's what I was getting with the alpaca ones. I'll see with this. I haven't made regular ones for a while.
Yeah. I remember you sent me some that were green, and I spun stuff, and it was nice.
Yeah, and that I did a bunch of batches, like, to get at a good amount. You know? And I totally just stabbed myself on one of the prongs, so you have to be very careful.
Every time I use my drum carder, my knuckles get all scraped up like I was fighting or something.
Being scrappy.
It's hardcore. So, I'm trying to think of other questions that people might ask, but I'm running a blank.
Okay.
Well, I know because traditionally Rolags are made on hand cards.
Right.
So it's nice that you can actually do it on a drum carder as well.
The hard part is drafting it out while it's like not able to be stopped. That's why this door stop, I might get another one to put on the other side too, is kind of nice. It just adds a little bit of resistance.
Yeah, that's cool.
Those are actually looking really fun. And that's why, like, you can never go wrong with the Rolags. You just grab a bunch of fiber and throw it together.
And it'd be good for, like, ends, too. Like, if you have just little bits of different colors.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm working on the last bit here. So I'm going to draft and pull and turn, draft, turn, and just keep going. I kind of lift it up a little bit so you can smooth out the end bits.
Yeah.
Can you see it on there?
Yeah, you can see it.
And just kind of get that up. Just turn it around. If anything's kind of messy, you can kind of scrape it along the tines. Is that what that's called? The ends?
Yeah, fine.
It's a little more rough, but that's alright. Alright, so this one I actually only got 6.
So that's a good amount for about, you said that's about an ounce or 2?
I don't know, I didn't even weigh this one. Let me weigh it real quick and see what it is. About an ounce perfectly, actually. So.
That's fun.
It is, right? I don't know if you can see the colors all that well.
Yes.
So that's it.
So we hope that our little tutorial helped you in your Rolag making endeavors.
Yeah. Okay, that's
if you have
for
any
you.
questions, ask them in the podcast thread.
Right.
And come back next week.
Yes. We'll be back to our regular scheduled programming.
Yes. So, and if there's ever any other technique that you would like us to showcase, let us know and we'll do it. So,
right.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.